Welcome to We Get Real AF, everyone. I'm Vanessa Alava.
And I'm Sue Robinson. We invite you to join us for smart conversations with amazing guests every single week by subscribing to the We Get Real AF podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And you can follow us on social. Our handle is at We Get Real AF. And we've also just started a Twitch channel where some of our recent content is being played. And you can find that at We Get Real AF on Twitch.
Yay. Look at us go.
I know. Our list is getting longer and longer of the places we shop.
I know. Well, today we are joined by Teresa Drew, Deputy Director at the STEM Next Opportunity Fund, a venture philanthropy fund whose mission. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, sorry. I thought I got something. I thought your title had changed for a second.
No.
Okay. I'm going to pick up there today. All right, Sam. Sorry. Today, we're joined by Teresa Drew, Deputy Director at the STEM Next Opportunity Fund, a venture philanthropy fund whose mission is bringing inclusive STEM learning opportunities to children, focusing on gender equity in STEM careers. Teresa is currently leading their Million Girls Moonshot Initiative, a program that will inspire and prepare the next generation of innovators by engaging 1 million girls in STEM learning opportunities through after-school and summer programs over the next 5 years. It's no secret that Sue and I are passionate about closing the gender gap in underrepresented spaces and paving a new path for future female leaders. And it all starts by reaching and empowering our youth with the resources to thrive. So, Teresa, we are so excited to finally have you with us because this is a long time coming.
Yes.
You know, we spoke to you like months and months and months ago, and you're super busy doing all of these wonderful things. So we're so excited.
Well, thank you. I am honored to be here, super excited to chat and tell you a little bit about the work that we're doing and why we're doing it and who we're working with and how lots of other people can get involved.
Fantastic. Well, where can our listeners find you online? Let's start there.
Well, a few different places. So they can, of course, find us on our website, stemnext.org. The Million Girls Moonshot has its own website. So that's milliongirlsmoonshot.org. And then I am on LinkedIn. Teresa, it's Teresa Drew, LinkedIn, and on Twitter at Teresa L. Drew, and also at Girls Moonshot.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in. Closing the gender gap in STEM. Explain that, why it's important to fix, and kind of get into some of the cool things that you guys are all doing. So I'm going to let you take it from here.
Okay. So, well, hold on.
Her dog's cute.
That was really bad timing. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
No worries at all.
So the gender gap in STEM. So why is it a big deal? So one of the things that we've been noticing for many years working with young people in STEM is that we have a pretty significant gap in two of the STEM disciplines. So mainly engineering and technology. I think we've made a pretty significant progress in like health sciences over many years. There's been a decrease in the gender gap. So we know what's possible, kind of gives us a good benchmark. And then where we know we have some gaps. So I know you all talk to a lot of really amazing women in tech and they're dedicated and you all are passionate about this. And when we think about 25% of the computing workforce right now is made up of women. We've got a long way to go just to hit parity. And then when we think about of those 25%, only 3% are Black women and 2% are Latinx women. And that is, frankly, pathetic. So, our job and my job at STEM Next Opportunity Fund and through the Million Girls Moonshot Initiative is really to ensure that there is access and opportunity for young girls across the United States to engage in fun, hands-on STEM learning opportunities that are going to spark creativity and engage their minds and really help them see themselves in a STEM career or STEM journey so that they can, solve problems that are important to them and their communities and their families. And we could go on and on, but this is about economic mobility for young people who've been left out of a STEM economy for a long time. So we are getting at that gender gap for a very specific reason.
Is there a specific age at which that that branching off starts to happen, or that drop off with women in STEM or young girls in STEM? Can you talk about what that age might be and what's going on at that season in kids' lives that's driving this?
So kind of for us, the sweet spot we know is middle school. And all the research has told us that if you are not sparking and engaging young minds, and this goes for young minds across the board, but especially girls, if you're not doing that by the time a young person leaves 8th grade and is going into high school, and they're not like really saying, I want to be a scientist or an engineer or technologist. If they're not saying that, then they're not likely to enroll in the classes that they're going to need to be able to get into the colleges that they need to develop the skills that will help them be successful on a STEM path. So, for us, we think, okay, let's get them really excited, have some fun experiences early on and often, because research tells us the earlier it happens and the more often it happens, the better and more likely we are for young people to say, I want to be in a STEM career. But it has to happen for girls, especially by middle school. And we know, like in elementary school, girls, they have aptitude and they're doing well in science disciplines. So, they do well, they're interested in it. And somewhere along the line, right before middle school and through middle school, they are turned off. And a lot of it has to do with, micro messaging that comes their way. Science isn't for them. They don't look like an engineer. And if we look at the workforce of someone in, like, you're talking with folks in technology fields, and if only 25% of the workforce is a woman and 50% of the population are women, we have a problem. Mm-hmm. So, it's changing everything what young people see, what they hear, what they experience, so that they can find themselves in STEM and see a path forward.
I'd love for you to touch on some interesting conversation we had when we were initially talking about bringing you onto the show. So you have this obviously underrepresentation of the gender, right, of girls in STEM. Can you talk about the underserved communities as like that insult to injury and the differences between families that are in a different capacity to enable programs and put their children in programs to achieve an aptitude in or an interest in STEM versus those that don't have that privilege?
Yeah, so the work that I do at STEM Next Opportunity Fund and through the Million Girls Moonshot is really focused on STEM learning beyond the classroom. So that means, where would a young person experience STEM opportunities? In the library, at the rec centers, at after school or before school programs, summer camps, anywhere that happens outside of school. And we do that for one main reason, and we call it the opportunity gap. So what we know is that by 6th grade, most kids, well, all kids spend 80% of their time is outside of school. That's a lot of hours that someone isn't engaged in a formal education process. And by the time kids enter 6th grade, they have experience. So young people from communities of affluence or middle-class communities have experienced upwards of 6,000 hours more enrichment activity than a young person from a community of poverty. And that equates to about 5 years of a learning gap. That is significant. So that's just when you have the haves and the have-nots. So we're thinking, okay, we have a lot of time when young people are outside of their classroom. And if we can make sure that that time is spent, engaging their minds, giving them fun and exciting activities that are high quality, that are growing their skills and increasing their belief in themselves, their confidence and their STEM identity, we're taking advantage of those hours and really helping to put them on a path towards economic prosperity. When we look at young people, so Black and Latinx communities, young people are 75% of those young people are coming from communities of poverty. So that's a lot of it's a huge disparity in access and opportunity. So we have a lot of work to do, a lot of hours to fill with really high quality learning.
Mm-hmm. So can you give us an idea of what that after school program might look for a kid?
You mean like what they might be doing?
Yeah. What kinds of
Yes.
activities are they doing
Yeah.
to engage them in STEM?
Well, it's been really interesting, especially over the last year during a pandemic. So I think what people, might often think about an after school or summer program, they're having, it's a safe space. They might be getting tutoring. It's a great place for them to work on skills gaps and work towards learning achievement, increase their learning achievement. But what they might not know about that after school space is that it's really flexible. It's a lot more nimble than a traditional education classroom where the teachers are working towards a number of minutes that they have to do in each of the subjects. So in an after school program, they can get their hands dirty. They can build a space module that that they can, drop off the balcony and see what happens. And they get to explore and they get to follow interests that are exciting to them. And I think that's one thing that we know, especially it's really good for girls, is that if they're solving for a problem that meets a need in their community or solves some, for a problem in their family, or whether it's, they live in a neighborhood and the people who walk their dogs don't clean up the mess. How is it that you can like solve for having a community, um, an app to report? I don't know. I'm just making this up. But this is a story that I heard about an app challenge where the kids in the community were like, you know what, we have a problem with this and we need to solve for it. So they did, but it was relevant to them. And this is really important for girls. So so the more that we can create those kinds of opportunities where they're working with high quality content, the educators are informed, they know the strategies that are engaging for young people. And then we're actually looking at the data that tells us whether it works. It's a good win-win experience for everyone.
What do the promotion efforts look like for the program? You mentioned educators, so obviously they're learning about the Million Girls Moonshot in
Mhm.
school. But what other things are you doing as an organization to get the word out to the children, especially?
So this initiative is unique. It is a collective impact type of approach. So what we do is we work with partners all across the country. So we work with funding partners and corporations like Intel and Lockheed Martin and Qualcomm, Panasonic. The list goes on, and then other foundations. And so we work with these corporations because they share our vision. They know that they need a diverse workforce because it unlocks an untapped potential of women. And so they're working with us to help us create these systems that are eliminating the barriers for young people to experience STEM learning. And we do that again through after school networks and partners. So we are building the capacity. This gets a little jargony, so I'm going to try not to get there, but we work with the after school community so that those educators who are working directly with young people across the country have the content, the curriculum, the training, the tools, the supplies, the access to role models, the access to mentors, um, and then a system set up so that they can help support those young people through those experiences over time. That's what we're trying to build. So this is really not just about us going into one program in Dallas. It's about us going into a community and helping to lift up all the programs so that all young people, especially girls, are able to have those experiences, and that the teachers are confident in delivering. Is we know STEM is intimidating. People are scared to do it, especially if you have not been trained as a I'm not a computer scientist, but I work with a lot of computer scientists. So we were, again, we're not doing the direct delivery through this program. We're lifting up and building up a community of support that changes and shifts the way that the educators work, and then also then influences the way that young people experience their STEM learning and are ultimately, excited to pursue a STEM journey.
I'm thinking back to when my girls, oh, sorry, Vanessa. Um, I'm thinking back to when my girls were middle school aged and how one of the reasons or one of the hesitancies they had about participating in STEM programs was all the boys that were going to be in there, and we hear a lot about the benefits of single sex education at certain stages throughout a child's development, just because girls tend to be more themselves and more open and more exploratory and braver in a single sex environment. So all that to say, do you see that in your program? I mean, how do you encourage girls to feel safe and comfortable and want to participate in these programs? Because, just as they find in the classroom, they're going to be in there with boys who maybe are more rambunctious or more forward, and they're engaging with the activities. How do you address that?
So that's a great question. One of I would say the main goal of the Million Girls Moonshot is to cultivate and empower 1 million more girls with an engineering mindset. And we really like this term mindset for a few different reasons. One, we've worked with engineering educators, Dr. Christine Cunningham. She's sort of the guru of all engineering education curriculum. And she has helped us identify a set of practices. So we call them the engineering mindset 10 habits of practice. And they are a set of skills, attitudes, and values that come with an experience that would embody this. So it would be like teamwork, the standard engineering design process, like prototyping, learn from failure, reiterate, but where we're also bringing in things like real world problems. So we know that these are girl-friendly strategies. And then when we're working with the educators, we're trying to shift their mindsets so that they're creating a more equitable and inclusive learning space. So we work with another partner, the National Girls Collaborative Project, who's helped us develop a framework for the after-school community to be able to ensure that their learning space is actually rooted in equity and inclusiveness first and foremost. Then we bring in the engineering mindset principles and create this kind of learning experience that allows for a young girl to be supported and lifted up during her STEM experience. And I think the main piece of this is that because it's a mindset, and then we're working toward mind shifts in adults and young people, and then families and communities also, the after school space is co-ed. It's not just girls.
Right.
So the girls aren't the only ones who are actually benefiting from this programming. So you have a teacher in an after school program who's creating an equitable and inclusive space. Well, it's benefiting the girl, and it's also the boys in that class are experiencing what it looks like for their peers, girls, to be involved in their projects. They're all working towards the same agenda, and they're seeing each other be successful and supporting one another in that effort. And I think this is really unique, and it's really important for all of us today, because ultimately those boys who are in that class, in that after school program with those girls and having that experience, they're all going to be working together someday. And we know, because we're all women sitting on this call, it has not been an easy journey for all women before us. It won't, we're hoping to make it easier. And if we are able to shift the mindsets of those young boys today, and when they're all in the workplace tomorrow, it's just going to get better and better. And then we get to that equity, we get to equality. Just like we have been able to do in the medical professions, we can get there in computer science, we can get there in engineering.
We were just having a conversation today, Sue and I, about learned behavior. And I
Mm,
think that it's so important, this change of mindset, not just for the educators, but for the classmates being the boys, the gender that
mhm,
has kind of had the superiority, if you will, within our culture. For what you just said, I think in years past and generations past, um, it's what they know, it's what they've seen. So to be able to see that at a young age, that girls can do what we do, we are human beings and we're equal and we all bring something unique to the table, just because human beings are all unique and different.
mhm.
That's where you start seeing the change, and it starts here with our youth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a pretty exciting and it's really empowering. I mean, I think it's empowering for all the kids who are experiencing this type of programming. I mean, when you create an equitable space, I mean, you're unleashing, talent in so many people. So we have girls, we have non-binary youth, gender expansive youth,
Mhm.
um, Black youth, Indigenous youth, Latinx. We have a lot of people who have been left out of the STEM economy, just STEM thinking.
Mhm.
And, so if we can like kind of shift the way people think and create this space where we really are truly supporting one another, I mean, we will all be better for it. We will all be better for it.
100%.
100%. Yeah. I've got a question regarding, feelings of intimidation, going into a program like this. How or what are some of the teachings that trainers go through or educators go through, um, in kind of breaking that barrier, breaking the ice with someone who's timid and like uncertain about being in this room, and it's maybe something that's completely outside of their comfort zone, but they want to try something new, or let's say it's their parents that want them to try something new. So how do you guys go about making a comfortable situation for that type of personality?
So I think it's a little twofold type of answer. So one is the educator confidence. Um, so it's really exciting because we have done some research and we know that, especially out of school, so a teacher who teaches in an after school or summer program, they are typically not trained STEM professionals. So it's very intimidating for them to say, "Oh, go do a STEM lesson." And you're like, "Well, what? I don't know anything. I don't know how to do that." Well, what we do know is that with a little bit of background in how to ask questions of young people and how to support them working together in teams and persisting through failure, those types of strategies alone will help the educator be more confident in providing a STEM-based lesson or activity to young people. And then what that does is and then you start to maybe you bring in a role model, and you bring in a role model who's a woman, who is a woman, a woman of color. And then you're now automatically creating a better sense of belonging and identity for those girls in the classroom, because they're seeing someone that maybe looks like them, and they are with an educator who feels confident in giving them the material that they're going to be doing. And I think if we do that often, we do it early, and we make it hands-on and messy, it's even better.
Mm-hmm. I think the question of intimidation, I'm glad you brought that up, because I do think a lot of times teachers feel like, I'm not a STEM educator. I remember we had
Mhm.
Dr. Leah Haynes with Two-Bit Circus Foundation early on our show. She was one of our first guests, and she talked about the fact that, so many of eighth grade math teachers, for example, don't have maybe a lot of math training or a lot of math background. And the word STEM in general, I think, can be kind of intimidating to so many people
Mhm.
because it feels so niche. So having teachers feel empowered that they can wrap their hands around these topics, these subjects, these projects, they can get messy, passes that confidence on to the kids. So I really love that. And how are the families, how are the parents, especially in these communities that have not had these resources available to
Mhm.
them before? We talked about some of the economically disadvantaged and people of color communities. How are they responding to having this? What are you hearing? What kinds of feedback?
So well, one, I love talking anything that involves family engagement. It's like my personal favorite strategy. And because I really feel like just in general, the family stakeholder group has been fairly disenfranchised from the education system as a whole over time. So what we're able to do with the moonshot is help the educators, and so for us it's the after school space, think through how do we incorporate families as a partner with us in the programming. And really that's like the first step to developing a culturally responsive program that brings everybody together, is that you're working with the community stakeholders, you're engaging the families directly as you're designing the program that's going to be serving their child. And you're also able to, during that process, you're learning about what would meet the needs of the family and the young person, but you're also educating and empowering that family to become an advocate, a cheerleader, a broker, a champion of that young person. And those are things that I think a lot of families don't see themselves maybe as even qualified. So if you are a family and nobody in your family went to college, and you have never met anyone who's a scientist or a computer scientist, especially, let's say, they've never even, I don't know, who's a coder? They've never met a coder in their lives. They're working 2-3 jobs, and they don't see a path for their child to become a computer scientist. So for that family to be able to say to that young person, you know what, you can do this. There's absolutely no reason why you can do it. And they can then become the champion and the broker. We know, because again, research has told us that encouragement is like a number one factor in a young person's persistence on a STEM journey, especially for girls and especially for youth of color. So encouragement alone is like a major game changer. So bring the families in, design programs with them, solve for solutions with the families and communities, and then empower them to become active, become an advocate, become a champion. Those voices matter, and they're so important, and we need to bring them in.
They're
Agree,
important
100%.
at the youth level as you continue to grow. Like we
Yes.
talk about a community and mentorship, and to have those champions at a young age is so, so important. So yeah, and that just carries through into your career.
For sure. It's so important. And it's really like a young girl and having her dad, maybe, who, a lot of dads historically maybe don't see their girls pursuing STEM because they've never seen that either. So that's like really powerful voice to have dad say to a daughter, you can do this. It's exciting.
It's huge. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Sue, I would love to hear more about Teresa's own career journey, unless you have more questions regarding the program.
Nope. I would love to learn how you got into this space.
Which is so funny because I know that you're so humble. Teresa's just traditionally, every time we've spoken to her, I'm not a tech person. But you're doing so many amazing things in tech. And I just think that your story is unique because it shows that you need every type of personality and way of thinking to achieve what you're achieving. So talk to us about your career.
That's so awesome. Thank you. I have like it is a winding and interesting path that has led me here. And I get to be like the tech person kind of on the side I get to be the encourager and champion, and I can pull some levers. And I think that is a really exciting place to be. So anyway, I'll say this. I started out as a young kid growing up in the mountains, rural, not a lot of opportunity, definitely did not have anybody who was in any STEM field in my family. First person, in my immediate family to go to college. And it, it, I love nature. So I'm like the person who's like always outside. I wander up the streams. I'm outside collecting grass and making, weird lettuce, a salad out of anything I could find in the backyard, and climbing up the mountains. And this carries on with me today. I love to be outside. So I always thought, okay, I'm going to go to college. I went to community college and was going to be an environmental biologist. That was like my dream, what I wanted to do. And I could not get through chemistry. And it was intimidating. There was no one who said you could do this. The teachers weren't saying it. I didn't have anybody in my family who was saying it. There were no role models, no mentors. There was nothing. Want. That's it. It's done. And I couldn't get past it. So I'm not an environmental biologist, but I did become a teacher. So I decided to switch and went into education because I really like learning, even though I couldn't get past chemistry. Well, what I know now is that I actually probably could have gotten past chemistry if I'd had somebody who said, Teresa, it's going to be hard work, but yes, you can do it. Well, now I know that, but I didn't know it then. So I went into my career as a teacher, and then had kids and wanted to, give them the joy of learning and exploring. And for me, that means like discovering, why the world works the way it does and what happens. So I started a preschool program, and that was awesome. And then I got involved in like education in San Diego, California, education reform, all sorts of things like that, really fun stuff. And then I met my colleague, who's the executive director of STEM Next Opportunity Fund. His name is Ron Ottinger. And he had been working with the Noyce Foundation for many years. And the Noyce Foundation is the family of Robert Noyce, who was the co-founder of Intel. And so the foundation was sunsetting, and they had been working for many years in the out of school space and doing STEM. And, they wanted to keep doing that work because they were seeing good traction with young people. And in my life, I kept thinking, what is this like magic that we can give to young people that's going to help them want to continue learning and be excited about the world and want to continue solving problems and exploring. And so as I learned more about the work that Ron was doing, and realized, what, I think actually STEM learning is kind of could be a magical hook. It's exciting. It gives you the opportunity to explore, create, blow things up, put things together, and play. And it's fun. And, and you have a path to economic prosperity doing it. And then I thought, oh my gosh, the out of school space, it's this space where there are a lot of kids and they could be doing a lot of really fun stuff. And to me, it was sort of like this moment where everything came together. And I thought, I want to be in that space. And I think we can actually make a difference for young people here. And so STEM Next Opportunity Fund continues the work of the legacy of the Noyce Foundation. And then we decided to launch the Million Girls Moonshot in partnership with all, our corporate and foundation partners, with the aim of cultivating 1 million more girls with an engineering mindset in 5 years. And again, we're able to do that through out of school and after school programs, and with really fun, exciting content partners, and just bringing opportunities that kids have the opportunity to see the potential in themselves and then become it.
I love that. And, two things. One is I totally relate to you on chemistry. that I still have PTSD from high school chemistry. That was the killer for me too. I know. And, we talk about this a lot on our show. Why are we still teaching so many of the subjects that are hard or, maybe more dry? Why are we still teaching them the way we did 30, 40, 50 years ago, right? When we have all these new tools. And to your point, Teresa, I feel like STEM needs a rebrand because it is it is hands-on, it is creative, it is blowing things up or preventing things from blowing up and understanding how to do that. And it is such an interesting and can be such a fun area where creative minds are needed, which is the arts sort of component in STEM and STEAM. So I just think that we have to keep reminding people STEM isn't just this hard, like for the super brainy person who sits in the back row and has their nose buried in a chemistry book all the time. It's for creative minds, and it's for people who want to be hands-on and who want to solve problems in new, creative, innovative, ingenious ways. So rebrand STEM.
I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah. We've had a whole episode about rebranding STEM and STEAM.
Oh my gosh.
And I feel like, you are doing that. You are doing that one child at a time and one program at a time in different cities around the nation. And I'm so excited for it. And I think that, to Sue's point, when kids get in there and get messy and can learn through failure. Failure has been such a bad word for so long. And if we could just use that as an opportunity to say, this worked, this didn't, let me try that again, but let's try this instead, and just make something better because of the failures that you're documenting along the way, that's exciting. And I think that even the way in which we educate our children, when we kind of, it's this, slap on the hand if you get something wrong versus saying, hey, let's look at this from a different angle. It's like the red markings as like a bad thing versus an opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
Just learned another way not to do something. That's all it is, right?
Exactly.
And we have like there's a unique moment in time right now, especially after, coming out of the pandemic, or let's hope we're coming out of it. But what we have seen shift is that the education system, the in-school and out-of-school system, just had to completely do a pivot. And we're seeing a new kind of relationship between the in-school, education system and the out-of-school system, and they're working together in a much different way. And it's really exciting for someone like me to be able to see, because there's opportunity with the federal government funding that goes to the state level funding that's going to school districts and communities to support learning across the spaces. So that's in school, out of school, before school, after school, summer, all of those, they're working together now, and it's really exciting. And I think to the extent we can, lift up the after school space as a viable learning space that we know excites, engages, and prepares, inspires young people to dive into those subjects that in school we need them to be focused on, because they are hard, they require some grit and persistence, and they're going to have to take algebra to be able to pursue computer science if they're going into college. So it's a really exciting time, I think, for STEM, STEAM. What else could we, how could we rebrand it? Now you've got me thinking. Anyway, now's our moment. I really feel like this is a good moment in time. It's a good space right now for education, in school, out of school, and kids, even though we've had to do some big shifts, but I see nothing but opportunity.
I agree with you. I think, the time when you have to pivot is the time when you can be the most innovative, and new things are born out of those times. So I certainly hope that's the case here. Are we ready for a lightning round?
I am. And then just one more thing with like rebranding STEAM and STEM. I think it's everything we've talked about, but it's also like what it sounds like and what it looks like, right? I think that's where it is. It's like STEAM, fun, engaging, all of the things, like girls and boys and teams of all different colors and all different, in the spirit of all inclusivity, able-bodied persons and people that come from different, different backgrounds in that regard, in just having all different minds really speak to how things are built and the products that we have serving our, communities and our consumers, because they're only going to be more inclusive because of that. So
Yeah.
absolutely.
Awesome.
All right, lightning round.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right, lightning round are just a few questions that we like to ask our guests to get to know them on a more personal note. Some of them are really, really fun, and others are just, kind of in line of what we've been talking about all along.
Okay.
So the first one is, how do you define success?
For me or for my work?
For you.
I think if I will say more girls. I would love to have more girls go confidently into their future, feeling that they can discover, innovate, create, explore, and be a contributor. That would be success to me.
Amen. I love that. What are 3 pieces of advice that you would give your younger self?
Okay, I would say, one, I would say stick out that darn chemistry course.
That chemistry is going to be in there somewhere.
Yes, I would say you could do that. Just do it. You could do it. I would say travel more. I love to, I really, well, you all know this. I've said it now like 5 times, but I really love to explore, and I would explore all over, more places all over the world if I could earlier. And I would go backpacking, and I will tell you why. I maybe combine it with travel. I started doing backpacking as an older adult now, and I have done a lot of different exercises and over the years, and I love it because you can only get to some of the most amazing places in the world if you walk there. And seeing a picture, it's not enough. And you can't fly there, you can't run there, you can't ride a bike there, you can only walk to some of these places, and it is amazing, and it opens your eyes to how amazing the world is, how small we are in the universe, and it's just such a cool elemental type of experience. That's what I would tell myself.
I just took a trip out west with my daughter, and exactly what you're saying, Teresa. We were in New Mexico and Colorado, and I mean, some of those places, you're right. You just have to hit the trail with your water bottle in your backpack, and that's the only way you'll get to see places. But they're so incredible, and they're so quiet, and the majesty of nature. It's just a reset for your whole perspective. So I love that.
Absolutely. Yep. All right, a fun one. What celebrity would you cast to play you in a movie?
Oh boy. I have no idea. I have never once thought of that. I can't, a celebrity, huh? I don't know. I really like Gwyneth Paltrow. Can we pick her? She's cool.
Sure
and she's got, and I like her skincare line, and she's kind of I don't know. She's interesting to me. Maybe her.
Good choice. All right. Describe the future in one word.
I think the future is potential. Let me say untapped, unleashed, or untapped potential. Yeah.
What myth about women in STEM and STEAM would you like to dispel?
I think it would be that I think you can have a career and you can be a mother in STEM.
Amen to that.
All righty, last one. Fill in the blank. Blank like a girl.
Oh, Oh, this is a really hard one too. Gosh, you guys have good questions. Do we have to pick one thing? I mean, can't I just say everything like a girl? I mean,
Yes.
I wanted to say everything. I can't think of one thing that only a girl should be able to do or that we would have to do. I don't want to, I want to say everything. I'm going to put it out there. I think a woman can do anything she sets her mind to. And it's our job to make sure that she has all the tools, the training, and the access to it.
I love it.
Sums it up beautifully.
There
Teresa,
it is.
thank you so much for your time. Again, we've been so excited to have you on for a long time. I'm so happy that we finally got a chance to talk and document it and to share it with the world. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. And for everything that you're doing to just expose girls and boys around the country to STEM and STEAM opportunities and to pave the way for a broader, more inclusive talent pipeline for companies of the future. Like that's huge. So kudos.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing our stories. It's really exciting to be part of a group of women in tech. So I'm excited to talk with you both. Thank you so much.